Welcome back. You are watching Moving Forward, and I'm sure if you were with us from the beginning, you are still amazed. I say to you, pick your eyes up off the floor now and put it back in the socket, because we are now going to discuss what you just saw. Isn't it amazing? Yeah. That was such a fantastic scene that we met there in Lutheran that you just saw. Now, of course, the obvious question by many would be, well, why would the Coalition to Save Clifton be engaged and even very interested in the proposed project at Lighthouse Point? Gentlemen, let's bring the people up to date.
CB, I see a number of similarities. First similarity is, why would a group of private investors be allowed to take such beauty, such a treasure, and just have it for their exclusive use to some degree? Well, they tell you, well, you will have access. Well, they told us we would have had access to Clifton as well for a fee. You would have to pay a little $25, and then they would have shown you which was our sacred remains, and they would have taken you through the areas that you would have allowed permission to go. And I note with interest that there's a similarity with this proposed deal from Disney, because I read somewhere recently where it said that the security requirements for international cruise lines will be imposed on that site. What does that really mean? Does that mean that the same kind of treatment will be given to those persons there as it is given to, what is that, Princess Keys, where we know that the private vendors are locked out and only certain vendors are allowed beyond the gate?
Because we visited.
Because we visited there. And the gentleman who was there, who was instrumental in creating the opportunity for the local vendors, tell us that they can't go beyond the gate. Is that going to be the same situation? Then the other point that I have, that I am curious about, why you need 700 acres if you say you're only going to develop 20%? Why do you want to hold on to the other 80%, Shelby?
Good question.
You say you're only going to develop 20%, but you want 700 acres of Bahamian land. What are you going to do with the other 80%? And then they told us, once the Bahamians started to react, well, you know, initially we were going to build condominiums and private homes, but we changed that now. But once you have permission to do what that's your property, that's your land, I mean, someone would be hard-pressed to tell you what not to do with your land.
Right.
Huh? Especially if you're doing something like selling it to other people. I could sell my land if it is my land. So if you were to sell the other 80% to private individuals, who's to determine what they're going to build on their property? So these are some of the things that come to my mind. So there's a lot of similarities, because if you recall, Clifton was going to be reserved for some 600 private gated community dwellers. Well, is that the same thing that's going to happen to the other 80% of the land, that they will be sold to privately owned developers?
Well, we're not sure of that, because their proposal is constantly changing to
every time somebody speaks out against them, it seems that the proposal changes.
To try and accommodate.
To appease.
Yes, yes.
But once you get your hooks in us, what happens then?
But there's a more fundamental issue that the coalition has taken, and that is, not only are we opposed on economic grounds, on environmental grounds, but we are also opposed on cultural grounds.
Absolutely.
Because it's going to change the culture of that area. We are opposed on social grounds. And so, as you said correctly, Freddie, that proposed project contains all of the elements that we fought against at Clifton, and that is why we've decided to take a stance against that proposed development.
Well, as I said earlier, I don't know what artifacts are there.
Well, there's an old church.
We saw the church.
St. Mary, the Virgin
Absolutely, one of the
Anglican
first
Church
churches.
at Bannerman Town
Yes.
was established in
Now,
1871.
I wasn't clear. Is that a part of the property?
No, that's not.
That's
That's
right
just outside
outside.
of the property.
Well, the
But I
lighthouse
understand
itself.
on the property there may
Yes.
be some slave remains.
But of course, because all of Saudi Luther,
We saw some of the remains. We saw
the
some
rock
of the
walls,
rock walls,
we saw
etc.
the rock walls.
Yeah.
So, Chelly, you jump in right here. Give us your opinion.
Well, you know, I concur with all the points that you made, but, you know, just to tag on to Freddie, you know, why would they water it? Duh. Duh.
Okay.
Huh? Yeah, come
They
on,
say
man.
only 80%, only 20% they're going to develop.
No, I know, but why would you want it? If
Why
you could
would
get
you
the
want
whole
that
thing, get the
80%?
whole thing. That makes sense to me. You'll figure out what to do with it later. I think one of the big issues is that, you know, see, the land isn't only for us. It's for future generations of unborn Bahamians. You understand? We just use it and hold it in good stewardship for them. And I think it's wrong to give huge tracts of lands to foreigners to hold within the Bahamas and deny future generations those properties, especially when it encompasses a lot of the historical stuff that, you know, you gentlemen spoke about. I think an even more fundamental issue is from an interest of national security. You understand? We're allowing our cruise industries, hotels, to hijack our tourism product with these all-inclusives and all these private enclaves. You understand what I'm saying? What they're totally doing is usurping and bypassing our product, and they're operating a business in a business where pretty soon they're just going to be pimping our name, but they're bringing in the people, they're making the on-ship dollar, and they're making the on-land dollar. I think the fundamental issue for me personally, forget One Bahamas or whatever the group's name, it's like, for me the issue is, how do we split this cruise ship dollar that's based on the components of the land dollar and on the sea dollar? You understand what I'm saying? Are we going to give the cruise ships the land dollar and the sea dollar? You know, which portion of it is for the Bahamian? So for me, it's the economic model and the precedent that we're setting. I believe that the cruise ships, you get all the money you make on the ship, we get all the money we make on land. So if the cruise ships are saying, look here, we want our guests to have experience A, B, and C, you come to us, we go through the Ministry of Tourism, wherever, and we create that experience for your guests, but we own it. What part of the cruise industry is for the Bahamian? The cruise industry cannot have the on-ship dollar and the on-land dollar, because if they're making all the money, what we here for? They might as well just ride around the Bahamas if we're not going to make a dollar. I mean, for me, it's that simple.
You know, there's another aspect of this when you look at it from a tourist industry perspective, based on Chelly's point. Part of the reason why we say that we give so much concessions to cruise passengers is for them to come to our country and get and whet their appetite so that they could come back as on-land visitors. Well, Chelly, if you are only going to come to my country and only experience what the cruise ship show me on their private island,
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're hijacking the tourism brand. They're hijacking.
What experience can Disney give to a visitor that is a Bahamian experience? They could give them a Disney experience. They could show them some more animated rats and some more animated bunnies. But the Bahamian experience should be given by the Bahamian people.
You know,
So they've just bypassed you and
Exactly.
usurp you within your own country,
correct.
and you're on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. And you know, and when
You're only a conduit.
and when you look at the money for like these cruise ships, man, they import millions and millions of dollars into this food. And my understanding, they pay no customs duty.
That's right.
Think about it. You see
All kind of
5 million
concessions.
tourists per year.
All kind
If
of
each one of them eat $100 worth of food a day, that's 500 million untaxed custom dollars.
And all of the money stays with the cruise ship operators.
You understand? A ship is a
All of
floating
it.
hotel. A ship is a floating hotel.
Yeah.
They're renting hotel accommodations, and they pay no accommodation tax like you would Atlantis would pay. They pay no VAT on it. These people are making monies in the territory of the Bahamas, and we're not making money. How do you allow a person to operate a business in your business? I did some just casual numbers, and in my estimation, we lose about $2 billion to them over a 10-year period. $2 billion. You know, a little bit of money. You understand? So they would make you think that the cruise ship industry don't need us. But buddy, you make $2 billion over us in 10 years. You know what $2 billion could have done to lower VAT or not have VAT? It could do to our national debt. listen, we have to get our money. We don't get VAT on gaming on the cruise ships. We don't get our money on any of these things. They import all this food into the country, don't pay $1, don't pay nothing on goods and services. You know, in the words of Donald Trump, this ain't a fair deal and we need to renegotiate this deal.
On these ships, they got at least 5 to 6 specialty restaurants.
Of course. Entertainment.
They don't pay any license. They don't pay any government tax.
But they made
on
$1 on it.
businesses.
But they made
But
$1
they're
on it.
making money while they are in
Right,
port
but we
in
make
this
no
country.
money. We make no money.
Casinos, for example, all of these taxes that our people and other people have to pay, they do these things duty free. But the point that the other point that I believe is very prevalent is the fact that these are foreign direct investors. They're coming in here. They said that they're going to spend some $400 million. And you know what the Bahamians are going to get? 150 jobs.
But they spending that out of the $2 billion that you've given them.
50 jobs.
They're spending out the money, untaxed dollars that you're allowing them to get away with. People are gambling on those cruise ships in the territory of the Bahamas. We get no VAT off it. Massages, entertainment, we make no money. How do you allow people to operate in your shop and you don't make $1?
In addition to that, they're going to own 700 acres of Bahamian real estate.
But you know what's so sad about this whole thing?
That make no sense.
The government has indicated they are going to make a decision imminently.
Yeah,
But the vast majority of the Bahamian don't even know what's going on.
that is true.
As a matter of fact, during our visit in Eleuthera, a lot of the South Eleutherans were not themselves aware. Here, so let's perhaps try to set the stage here. What we are talking about is a scope of land, roughly 700 acres, which is owned by a private entity, in the United States. It's not government land except for a small portion of crown land surrounding the lighthouse. Disney is proposing to purchase the 700 acres and create their development. Their latest proposal calls for them to return 170 acres to the government, so they say. There's another entity in Eleuthera called One Eleuthera, a private sector group, who also have proposed to develop the site. What we are talking about is very fundamental. The model of development of these islands by the cruise lines is wrong. It is wrong for Bahamians. It is unsustainable.
Well, they have some samples they can look at.
Well, we have a number of islands. Disney had a cruise port, which I think they abandoned.
They have a history. That's
Maybe they should tell us why they abandoned that.
And we could also look at this other one that we looked at, where we heard witnesses of and testimonies of locals saying how devastating it is for them.
The question is...
What is it called?
That's Princess Keys.
Yes.
And just a few miles away is Half Moon Key, which we saw a cruise ship tied up at Half Moon Key. When you stand on Lighthouse Point,
So what's
you
going to
can
be the
see
difference
the
with
cruise
Disney?
ship.
What's going to be the difference?
And then around the corner is Princess. What we are saying is the whole idea of cruise lines creating their little enclaves, like Shelley said. Yeah. Not only are they bypassing our major national product, but they're undermining it. We know for certain, we've seen documents where cruise lines would say to their passengers, don't disembark in Nassau. Crime, they'll rob you, they'll rape you. And if you must go ashore, don't carry any money. We will take you to a place where you can spend your money, where you can buy souvenirs. What we are saying is that is undermining our national tourism product, because
they're hijacking it.
What they do, they spend a short time in port.
That's correct.
And then they take the passengers.
So that they could get your concessions and they can say they went to a foreign port. See, that's all we're doing.
It's their island. Everything on the island is owned and controlled by them. Of course,
that's correct.
Disney in their latest proposal said, oh, all we will control would be the food concessions and entertainment. But then what is basically left? You know, running a few chairs.
Not only that, I heard some of the same principals who claim that they represent Disney on a radio station says, when they asked the question, will Bahamians have equity? The answer was, we will have operators. Now you could operate, but who's going to own it?
Yeah, that's a word.
See,
that's
see,
subjective.
That is a very evasive way of saying we will own it, but we will have some Bahamians working for us operating it. That's all.
Folks, we're going to come back after this quick break, and we're going to continue this discussion because it truly is very important, and we wish that you would listen carefully, not just to us, but to all of the talk, and try to analyze what is being said, because our future is at stake right now. Don't go away.
Only love can save us now. Only love.